If you are a Harry Potter fan, you perhaps can recall a scene from the movie where Ron was provided with Felix Felicis, the so-called liquid luck. Harry added the liquid in Ron's drink to make him feel well before a match. Ron was actually an excellent keeper, but his only problem was his confidence. This helps to calm Ron's nerves because he believes he is now lucky, and because he thought that he wasn't nervous and really played his part well, just as he was always capable of doing. After the match, Harry took out the liquid luck from his pocket, showing it to Hermione. He didn't add the liquid luck before the match. It was with him always. Do this belief and positive thought infusion in performance outcome is restricted to Hogwarts only? Or is it common in the world we live in? Let's check out. A study performed in 2007 on the college students who are untrained for lifting the weights. When the experimenter gave them an amino acid supplement, there was a 20% increase in their strength. The experimenter knew very well that there were no amino acid supplements. It was just a milk sugar tablet always. Next year, another study was published in European Journal of Neuroscience. This time also, the untrained athletes, when given a high dose of caffeine, shows an increase of their strength by 22%. The drink that boosts their performance is just a decaffeinated coffee. Another group studied the same on the trained runners. Even for the 84% of the runners, they found an increase in their performance by 8% when they have provided them with super oxygenated water. By this time, you must catch hold of the trick. It was only the plain water the runners are having always. These are only few of the scores of studies in this aspect about how infusion of positive thoughts and belief to the inert substance can alter the performance of your body physiology. Let us look into a question that do you think that saline injection can also act as a painkiller? During World War II, wounded soldiers who even have their limbs amputated or have to undergo in-camp surgery was treated with the most potent painkiller, morphine. The army doctor, Dr. Beecher, was run out of the morphine stock. But Beecher has long studied the pain perception and always wondered that why soldiers wounded to the level of their limbs being amputated can withstand the pain but exclaimed in pain due to the pinprick of the syringe needle. He understood that the pain perception might differ in different conditions. However, being run out of the morphine stock, he injected saline water instead. The wounded soldiers, of course, were not aware of that and respond positively. They feel less pain as equivalent of having real morphine. Now you know the answer, but not the science behind it. We will come into it shortly. Many people know the story of Mr. Wright, who was found to have the cancer and in 1957 was given only days to live. Hospitalized with tumors in the size of oranges, he heard that scientists had discovered a horse serum, Crabuzin, that appeared to be effective against cancer. He begged to receive it. His physician, Dr. Phillips West, finally agreed and gave Mr. Wright an injection on Friday afternoon. The following Monday, the astonished doctor found his patient out of his deathbed, joking with the nurses. The tumors, the doctors wrote later, had melted like snowballs on the hot stoves. 2 months later, Mr. Wright read medical reports that the horse serum was a quack remedy. He suffered an immediate relapse. Mr. Wright's doctor told him, "Don't believe what you read in the papers." Then he injected him with what he said was a new, super refined, double-strength version of the drug. Actually, it was a saline, but again, the tumor masses melted. Mr. Wright was the picture of health for another 2 months until he read a definitive report stating that Crabuzin was worthless. he died 2 days later. Doctors who know this type of stories dismiss it as one of those strange tales that the medicine science cannot explain. The idea that the patient's belief can make a fatal disease go away is too bizarre. But now, scientists learn that the placebo effect is even more powerful than anyone had been able to demonstrate, and are also beginning to discover the biological mechanisms that cause to achieve the results that borders on the miraculous. Using new techniques of the brain imagery, they are uncovering a host of biological mechanisms that can turn a thought, an action, or a desire, or a belief into an agent to change the cells, tissues, and organs. The placebo effect is thus defined as a phenomenon in which people experience a benefit after the administration of an inactive substance or after a sham or fake treatment. Inactive substances like sugar pill or saline, it is kind of patient's condition improves in the belief that they are getting treated. It looks like an active drug, of course, but has no pharmacological properties of its own. A placebo is thus a fake treatment that in most cases produces a very real response. Placebos are the lies that heal. To give demonstration of what a placebo is, I will take out a medicine from the strip. This is the medicine, the capsule. And I will open the capsule to take out the active ingredients that it has and will discard that. The capsule is now empty, and now I will take the sugar and put it over within it, and now it is a sugar pill without having any active ingredient. Do you think it still has the potential that it holds to cure the disease the medicine is designed for? Studies have shown time and again that placebos like this can work wonders, like real drugs. They can cure diseases. Remember, it is not just the subjective experience or the feeling of the patient or the emotion they are feeling associated with the taking the drug, but it is the hardcore physiological change that can be measured by means of the modern biomedical technologies like that of the fMRI, the checking by hormonal level by ELISA, heart rate monitor, etc. Even these placebos have been reported can cause side effects like itching, diarrhea, nausea, etc. They can lead to the change in the pulse rate, blood pressure, or the skin condition. The question is that how a placebo like this can cure a disease, when and why it will work, and how often it works. Whether the people like you or me are affected by this placebo effect in normal day-to-day life. What are the factors that affecting the placebo effect? And most importantly, is there any rational explanation or scientific evidence behind the mechanism by how this works? To note over here, the sugar pill like this or the saline solution is a placebo, but the positive effect or cure produced by a placebo drug or treatment, that is the placebo effect, is not caused by the placebo. The effect is solely due to the patient's belief in the treatment. It is kind of that your brain mimics the actual drug experience. In today's journey, we will encounter people from different domains like patients, like doctors, scientists, the researchers, the pharma companies, and the people from every walks of life like you and me. We will also come across many scientific discoveries in this field and their implications in our everyday life. Let's start with 2 spontaneous remission cases in cancer. At the beginning, let me introduce you with stamatitis moriatis. In 1976, he was diagnosed by the cancer and doctors told him that he was only 6 to 9 months to live. Being sure of the death, he refused to accept the chemotherapy and medication. He was a Greek residing in USA, and to cut his funeral costs low, he went back to his hometown. He chose a different therapy, nature, community, farming and some of his good old-fashioned brew. But he didn't die soon. How many years you think he survived after his initial diagnosis? He survived for a long 36 years after his initial diagnosis in 1976, and he finally died on 2013. 25 years after the diagnosis, Stamatis went back to the United States to ask his doctors what had happened. Apparently, all the 9 doctors were dead by that time. Clary Hasser. She was diagnosed in 2008 by adenocarcinoma. Without surgery at an early stage, it is essentially a death sentence. Radiation or chemotherapy might prolong her life to a certain extent, but she refused both. She changed her relationship with fear, changed her psychological and belief system, and become a different person. She checked by a CT scan in 2013. There are no traces of adenocarcinoma over there. If you think these 2 cases are just an outlier, I will recommend you to visit the website of the Noetic Sciences. You can Google search Spontaneous Remission Project, which catalogs and holds a database of thousands and thousands of such cases compiled with details. In this wonderful experiment about the pain perception, the participants were deliberately given a pain shock by means of electricity. They are provided, say, 30 units of electric current, displaying it the same in front of them. Participants felt the pain to be worst of its kind, and their real-time brain scan also confirms that. The experimenter made a tweak. To the same participant in the second round, the same 30 units of electricity has been provided, but this time misleading the participant by typing only 20 in the display in front of them. The participants reported less pain this time, even when the current shock given is same. The participant's feeling of pain can be modulated by another cue, this time a visual cue over here. In fact, any cue, verbal or visual, works in the same way, makes us less responsive or more responsive to the pain. We take this experiment one step further. Here, initially, participants are given a mild shock, but this time the display is not showing any units of electricity charged to them, rather it displays the emotions of mild shock or painful shock as felt by the previous participants. If the display shows all the participants reported worst pain, the same painful emotion is felt by the participant. In the second round, the same participant was provided double the electric shock. This time, the display in front of them shows less painful emotions perceived by the previous participants. What do you think? Will double the electric current makes the participant feel less pain? Well, that's what the study shows. It proves our brain is wired to be social. We conform with the others, and the perception of the people around us is twice more influential in reshaping our perception than that we have of ourselves. The experiments prove also that how the peer pressure and the social conformity makes our shapes or feel our feelings. Advertisement use like top selling energy drink for last 10 years is just to make use of this bias, so that you conform to what the common masses are into, according to their claim. Even our feelings for our pain, physical or mental, from any disease or whatever, is shaped by the people around us. As humans, we spend a major part of our history in the wild. Their survivability while dwelling with the wild animals depends upon conforming with the social groups. Even the probability of the tiger attack is many folds higher for the lone deer than when it stays in the group. Remember our wounded soldier example in start of this lecture, who were provided saline instead of morphine? It explains why the soldiers suffered from serious wound might withstand the pain as they are conforming with the soldier group and felt the pinprick of the syringe needle painful, conforming to the patient group. So pain is relative for the same person in two situations. A lot of physical and mental diseases we are suffering from or has the capability to fighting against depends upon the social group we are conforming into. Let's check the science behind this. This is our brain and this is our spinal cord. For example, you have a pain perception somewhere in your body which is been perceived by the nerve impulse propagated through the nerves over here. So these are the connection between the two neurons, the synapses, and over here the morphine works. This is our opioid receptor. Our morphine works over here to stop the perception of the pain. In fact, our brain has the opioid receptors throughout its surface. The higher density over in this region, the lower density region over here. So morphine binds to these receptors and makes our pain less, just like this. The receptors are something like a lock and the morphine here is the key. When they click and bind to each other, it unlocks the relief sensation from the pain. Now let's see what a group of scientists proved in 1979 in a placebo pain relief experiment on the patients in the dental care center, who all came to extract the wisdom teeth. Group 1 was given a placebo and it activates the belief and the reward system. Body release its natural painkiller endorphin, which binds to the same receptors on the neuron cell surface and gave the patient relief from the pain even when the wisdom tooth is extracted. To prove that endorphins use the same pathway as that of the morphines, the scientists group use a blocker of opioid receptors and gave the second group the same placebo as that of the first, but this time it added a blocker. Even though the placebo released the endorphins, it couldn't able to bind to the opioid receptors and hence the pain sensation persists. This is a scientific proof that our belief system can modulate our biochemical pathway and the molecular and physiological mechanism of our body similar to drug. In another experiment in studying the placebo effect on pain perception, the participants are provided with a pain relieving cream, which of course is a placebo with no active ingredient. They provided positive instructions to one group and negative instructions to another group about the quality and the possible expected effect from that cream. Thus, depending upon the positive instruction, a group of optimists develop and another group become pessimists about the upcoming cold pressure shock. The cold pressure task involves placing a hand or forearm in cold water, a stimulus that produces slowly mounting pain of mild to moderate intensity and is terminated by voluntary withdrawal of the limb. The optimist group feels less pain and capable to keep their hand in cold pressure task for longer time before voluntary withdrawal. The pessimist group do otherwise. Their heart rate and blood pressure is monitored in real time during the study. It proves that optimism implanted was related to the effect of a drug, even if it is a placebo. This seminal work was done by Stuart Wolf in treating the vomiting and nausea of the pregnant woman. He treated his patients with a drug called Ipecac and studied their condition after 20 minutes. What do you think? Will the medication could able to stop vomiting 20 minutes? Of course they will do, because the doctors told that this is one of the best anti-vomiting drug available in the market. But the twist over here is ipecac is a strong vomit inducer which is used for generating vigorous vomiting and used to wash stomach during the poisoning. This is a successful experimental evidence in reversing the effect of active metabolites in the drug by means of expectation. This old study by Ikeme and his groups on contagious dermatitis, a skin disease causing rash. It was done on the participants, all of whose one hand was rubbed with either of the poisonous lacquer or wax tree, which release an obnoxious substances and causing irritation and the skin rash instantly. Their other hand was treated with a harmless leaf as a control. The question is, which hand do you think the allergic reaction would be? Whether it will be in this left hand or in the right hand. Of course, the allergic reaction is seen on the right hand to the 85% of the participants, and in 15% of the participants rash developed on the left hand. The actual treatment was like this, and the harmless leaf caused the allergic reaction and the toxic poisonous leaf causes rash to a very less percentage of the people. This proves that suggestion-related production and inhibition of contact dermatitis is possible. Anthony Robbins' book of Unlimited Power describes a case of a psychiatric patient with a split personality. One of her personalities was diabetic while another was not. Her blood sugars would be normal when she was in her non-diabetic personality, but then when she shifted into her diabetic alter ego, her blood sugar rose and all the medical evidence demonstrated that she was diabetic. Psychiatric Bennett Brown, author of The Treatment of Multiple Personality Disorder, describes the case of Timmy, who also had a multiple personalities. One personality was allergic to the orange juice, while another personality is non-allergic to the same orange juice. Hence, this case proves that the psychological makeup creates or eliminates a disease, as in these cases, having splitted up with their personalities have different physiological and health conditions according to their psychological makeup. The makers of the top-selling hair regrowth solution, Rogaine, has performed a clinical trial with more than 2000 subjects studying the effect of their hair solution. They use different solution percentage in different conditions and for 32 weeks and 48 weeks and have seen the benefit of their solution. There is a placebo control like always in a clinical trial. The group got only a fake solution treatment. This group is essential in measuring the activity of any medicine to measure that how effective the active ingredients is in compared to the treatment with nothing. What do you expect? Will belief is potent force for regrowing the hair? As it seems that 5 hairs per square centimeter of their skull and here 4 hairs per square centimeter of the skull have regrown just by believing that they are getting potent hair regrowth solution. Placebo response was also observed in case of major depression and the antidepressant response. On the way we are taking a pill or the expectations we have about a pill or the therapeutic alliance that provided along with the pill can make a placebo pill to work like a major antidepressant. The placebo response is also been observed in treating the cases like asthma. Over here in the New England Journal of Medicine, which is the topmost journal in the field of medicine the Ted Kapchuk and his group have compared an active drug with that of the placebo and sham acupuncture and no treatment, and found that the placebo response can also treat asthma. Another study published by American Psychological Association was done when two groups are having the same milkshake of 380 calories, have the notion that they are having either 160 or 620 calorie according to the suggestions provided to them. The ghrelin hormone level increases when we are hungry, thus telling the brain that the body needs to be fed. When our stomach is filled with the food, the level drops. This study have shown that according to the mindset or the psychological mediation or the inputs, we can alter the ghrelin response, the hormonal change that can cause or make us feel hungry. The effect of food consumption can alter our physiological response towards the food by means of our belief towards that. So, next time you are having a high-fat diet and worried about the same, it actually causes more harmful effect, as the hormonal level will do the needful change so that your worry becomes the truth, or that is, more fat will be absorbed from the food. Just similarly to the hunger response mediated by the ghrelin hormone over here in this experiment. So, do placebo effects deals with pills, solutions, creams, or we can escalate it further? That's what done in this study published in New England Journal of Medicine, one of the topmost journal ever in this field of medical research. They compares a partial meniscectomy with a sham surgery, which means a fake surgery. Meniscectomy is the partial removal of the outgrowing meniscus present in the knee joints. This makes the pain worse for the patients. The removal of it by surgery was the most effective treatment. The doctor group in this study do the surgery in the group of patients, while another group just got the fake or the sham surgery. They performed all the rituals in the second group as well, that have done the pre-tests before the surgery, anesthesia, even using the surgical equipments, but this time only for the superficial cut, followed by stitching back again. The follow-up surgical procedures for the upcoming days were also the same. Now what do you think? Only a skin cut sign with stitching in one's knee will make the immobile patient to get off the wheelchair and walk with their own leg? If you said yes, then you are correct. However crazy it seems, the study concludes arthroscopic partial meniscectomy were no better than those of the sham surgical procedure. Studies like this overthrows a prolonged treatment technique. It causes a lot of hues and cries in the medical world time and again. The medical practitioners who are confident enough and have only this skill in their repository were in the big soup. They tried their best to suppress studies like this to reach into common people like us. Ted Jack was a professor in the Harvard Medical School. He is a stalwart in this domain of placebo treatment. Out of his many remarkable works, this particular study compares an acupuncture which is done in the wrong way with this, that is a placebo acupuncture, with that of the placebo pill. The acupuncture was performed without letting the needles get into the skin up to the depth it should. Other patient group is treated with a fake pill. Now this study turns out to be literally a nothing versus nothing comparison. Which group do you think improves better? It's one who believes that undergoes an acupuncture because it looks more ritualistic. Sham acupuncture device has a greater placebo effect on the subjective outcome of the patients than the oral placebo pills. That's what this study concludes. To note over here, acupuncture, even performed properly, also only capable of treating patient by placebo effect. Injury or damage in vertebrae and spinal cord is long been treated, even till date, with injecting a substance like cement into the gap to seal the thing. The extensive clinical experience and observational research indicates vertebroplasty, so what it is called, is substantially and often dramatic improvement in the pain from the vertebral fractures. However, this study by Miller and his group have divided the patients having the vertebral fractures and treated them in two different ways. One group is getting normal vertebroplasty, that is the procedure of a special cement being injected. Another group is getting a sham intervention, that is no cement has been provided, only a superficial cut. When they compare, what they found that vertebroplasty is effective in relieving the pain not by the virtue of injecting the cement to stabilize the fracture as we have thought, or the whole medical world has thought, but simply by the placebo response. Even only the cut sign makes the patient feel better of their vertebral fracture and they could able to move around after the surgery. So vertebroplasty has a placebo efficacy but no specific efficacy as published over here. Even in the disease of the Parkinson, the sham surgery shows a better response when the surgery was provided with the expectation that a gene to be delivered that works better in the Parkinson's patient, even more than when the real surgery is concerned. This study is another proof of the common joke in Parkinson's research that only progress we could make taking into consideration of all the advanced knowledge and technologies at our disposal is the sham surgery. Parkinson's disease has a profound physical symptoms caused by the low level of the neurotransmitter dopamine. In one of the study over here, where the patients are treated with the actual medications, that is the L-Dopa, that is in the used for the treatment of Parkinson, and other group was treated by placebo. So in compare to the untreated group, the placebo group starts secreting the dopamine just on the basis of the expectation that they are getting the treatment. L-Dopa also of course shows the increase in the dopamine level, so as the placebo group. Here in this study they concludes that the strength of belief of improvement can directly modulate the dopamine release in patients with Parkinson's disorder. Same finding was done on another study published in one of the topmost journals Science in this biomedical research field. They found strong correlation with infusing the hope, belief and expectation in the patient suffering from the Parkinson's literally makes their brain to synthesize the dopamine. They have performed the PET scan on the patient's brain and confirmed that this dopamine release causes the physical improvement in the patients with the Parkinson's disorder. So the proposition of this lecture title holds that whether you can treat Parkinson's with packaged sugar, that is a placebo. Now I think you shouldn't need the time to answer this question. Scientists did prove that it is probably the best medicine out there. Only thing patient require is not a packaged sugar but a packaged belief. So how this belief can be packaged? What ritualistic way it needs to be followed so that the belief can be triggered that a proper care and treatment is provided to the patient. Before going into that, let us discuss about these questions. Do you think that whiteness of your doctor's coat and his chamber ambience can influence your disease remission? Whether treatment consists of an active drug or a placebo, the clinical setting, that is the doctor's office might be, or the chamber or the hospital that you are visiting, that surrounds the treatment, includes multiple type of context informations that are perceived and interpreted by the patient's brain in completely different way. The external context includes some verbal suggestions. It can be something like, this treatment will make you feel better, this is the best drug out there in the market, your condition is showing the sign of improvement. Some things are like those suggestions. Some social cues, like the way the doctors or the caregivers are looking into the eyes, their body languages, their voice, the empathy they are showing. The treatment cues, like over there in the sham surgery, you have seen that the cut marks or the needle puncture or the syringe used or the type of medication used are influence the patient's belief. And the internal context also plays critical role, like that of the memories, emotions, the expectations. All these features combine together to make the treatment context and can surpass the effect of the active ingredients of the drug. It's a kind of simulation of the actual treatment. It's like watching a good movie. You feel all sorts of emotions, from fear to thrill, suspense, romantic, threat, fear, anger, from watching different movies and the incidents showing over there. Even being well aware that all these are not happening in real time in front of you. They are not real. But the emotions you are feeling are real, and your brain chemicals, body physiology and mental state all depict that. Same for the placebo treatment. The medicines might not be real, but the change in the brain chemicals and body physiology is. It's just like a movie, if staged properly and in realistic manner, will trigger your emotional button. The placebo will do the same, triggering your immune system. Therefore, if clinical theater can be staged properly, it can cause havoc on the patients. Studies even shows that the time provided by the doctors or the caregivers or the medical practitioners to the patients for a single consultation also affects their improvement. In this study, the patients with acid reflux disease do dramatically better when a 42-minute consultation time was provided to them instead of an 18-minute one, even when the prescribed drugs were same. Robert Adler was often referred to as the father of this field, the psychoneuroimmunology. In this famous study over here in 1975, a proper perspective of how conditioning two factors make an association between them can provide a booster placebo effect. Conditioning is something just like how Pavlov's dog previously conditioned with food with the sound stimulus together, ultimately starts salivating even only when the sound of the bell was provided post-conduction time period. So what Robert Adler did was using compound cyclophosphamide, a chemical agent which has potential to suppress the immune system. So it is immunosuppressive agent that will suppress any immune reactions and is often used during the surgical procedure or tissue grafting. He injects this immunosuppressive agent in the rat. Just after this, you injected sheep's blood into the same rat. After 6 days, like this, the samples of blood was collected and was checked for the presence of hemagglutinating antibody, which should be present if two foreign bloods are mixed together. But because of the presence of the cyclophosphamide, the immunosuppressive agent, percentage of the antibody formed is less because the immune reactions doesn't able to occur. Now, the second part of the study is just to check the same thing, replacing it with the saccharin. They found that saccharin couldn't able to stop the immune reaction, and hence the hemagglutinin antibody titer is high. Now, Adler and his group have performed a conditioning process before the introduction of the sheep's blood. They have treated the mice with both the saccharin and the cyclophosphamide together for 3 days and then injected the sheep's blood, but this time nothing is provided at the time of the introduction of the foreign blood. They found that in absence of any active immunosuppressant over here, the hemagglutinating antibody titer is still high. In the final part of the experiment, during the time of introduction of the foreign blood, they provide saccharin. Interestingly, this saccharin itself can able to act as an immunosuppressant, thus preventing the formation of hemagglutinating antibody. What it then suggests is that saccharin, a placebo molecule, when introduced into the food can cause immunosuppression. It is due to this conditioning. Whenever the rat was getting the sweet taste of the food and the immunosuppressant at the same time, their immunity got suppressed. But the physiology of the rat got associated with the immunosuppression with the sweet taste. So when food is introduced with only saccharin over there, it can itself cause the immunosuppression. Studies of the same type was done on the dogs when the adrenaline was injected to the dogs and the blood pressure recorded, and as adrenaline causes increase in the blood pressure. When the acetylcholine is provided, the acetylcholine which actually causes a drop in the blood pressure, and it has been associated with the bell sound along with the injection. Finally, adrenaline, like in the same case which causes the upregulated blood pressure, adrenaline is injected with the bell sound. This time, instead of the blood pressure going up, it goes down, because the dog now gets associated with this bell sound with the decreased blood pressure in their body. Placebo is the unconditioned stimulus like saccharin over there, or the bell sound in the next experiment that we have seen, that is itself inert but can change the physiology or the immunology. So this unconditioned stimulus or the placebo couldn't able to have an effect within our brain or within our immune system if it is not accompanied with the other factors, that is the condition factors or the other psychosocial factors. These psychosocial factors have two components, the conscious and the unconscious. The unconscious component is what triggers in the rat or in the dog in our previous experiments. This unconscious, when implanted with a conditioned stimulus, it provides a conditioned response, and this response has the potential to affect the brain. This psychosocial context also has another factor, the conscious, the cognitive function, the cognition. This is higher animals like us do have, like we can trust, we can hope, or the expectations, or it can be anticipation for getting well, or it can be the belief system that we have. All these factors forms our conscious world, and when all ingredients are together is in context, this conscious cognition also affects our brain, and at that time only this unconditioned stimulus or the placebo that we do have an effect on our brain, so that our immune system can work accordingly. Now let us see that what are the factors that contribute for a better nothing, that is a better placebo. There are multiple factors that regulates so that it becomes most effective in treating the conditions. The first is the size of the pill. It has an impact on the condition or the improvement of the patients. The second is the color. Third is the dose. A specific dose like 2 pills before breakfast or 1 pill after dinner. A specific dose like that can make it more realistic. The brand name, every people have a fascination of brand fascination even of the drugs. More the price, the higher the placebo effect is, and also the type of treatment they are getting, like either they are getting a sham surgery or a sham acupuncture or a sugar pill. Surgery has greater advantage over acupuncture or other medical interventions like that, and those have much more better response than only the pills. Locality or the location where you stay also have an influence on the placebo effect of a drug, and also how it is packaged, whether it is in a bright colored one or whether it is in a form of a solution, all have a profound influence on the placebo effect. These are the few researches that shows the color, shape, taste and even the name of the tablet or pill can have an effect on how patients feel about their medications. Here is the report, Capsule Color and Size Affecting the Drug Expectancy. Researchers at the University of Bombay, India have surveyed over here the over-the-counter medication to find out just how much the color of a tablet influences the patient's choice. They report that red and pink tablets are preferred over other colors. Here are 2 more reports for the same. In a 1996 study, green and the blue color pills have more sedative response than the other colors. Red and orange colors are better if it is used for the stimulant purpose. Yellow pills make the most effective antidepressants, according to a 1970 study. Green medicine can better wipe your anxiety and white stuff can soothe your pain, said a 1982 study. Let's now have a look how combining 2 factors, expectancy and price of the medicine, affects treatment outcome. Do you think implanted expectation and discounted price of medicine can influence your disease remission? Patients were provided with packaged sugar placebo medicine in the study and were primed that the medicine is of low impact for any major positive outcome. The medicine was also provided at a 50% discount price. This placebo have a real small effect on the treatment outcome. Now, after the same expectancy priming, but the medicine is expensive and not under any sorts of discount, the patients with this group performs better than that of the previous one. Now the doctors praise about how effective the medicine is to the third group, that is priming them with high expectancy, but the medical shop outside the doctor's chamber provided them with the medicine at a discounted price, giving the patients a hunch that the medicine has low market value. The doctor's priming works as the patient shows much better response when the high expectancy is matched with the full price medicine. The benefit from that is even higher and it shows the highest beneficial response from the patients. Remember, all the groups were under the same sugar pills treatment, so any change observed is solely due to the psychological factors that are playing in their mind in terms of the expectancy and the price. Here are some reports that shows the effectiveness of the treatment is dependent upon the medication costs, the brand name embossed or the generic name used, or the higher the price, better the result. As people get more used to have a particular brand, more prefer to take one brand over the other, even when both the two brands have the same generic compounds. Higher you pay the medicine, the better the treatment efficacy is. You are getting what you paid for. Studies even shows that advertisements of a branded drug can also have an impact on its physiological efficacy, and marketing actions can modulate our brain circuitry so that our experience of having a drug becomes more pleasant. Now, how this preference of color, size, brand, etc. develops within you? It all depends upon the locality or the society you are living in. As already discussed about the social influence in generating the placebo response, the medication brand you rely upon is due to the other people around you relying on the same. It also might start from the single person like this. This person is in all praise for a brand or something to the immediate people over around her, until the whole crowd or the population of a place believe that the brand is more efficient. A drug might be best seller in one country while it has almost no market in another. Now here as a question for you, can you overdose a placebo? Yes, you can. Basically you can overdose on anything, even though water toxemia is known. Having too much water can kill a person. Take this instance where a guy fight over an argument with his girlfriend. The angry guy wants to end his life by taking 29 pills of antidepressants, the drug prescribed by his doctor. But soon after he understood his mistake and rushed to the hospitals to get the treatment, where his blood pressure was as low as 80/40 and pulse rate is at almost 110. Even after provided with the medication and saline, there was no remarkable improvement until the doctor who prescribed these antidepressants arrived and assured the guy that he was under a part of a clinical trial and the guy falls under the placebo group, that his medicine is nothing but the packaged sugar. Soon after, his blood pressure went normal at 126/80 and pulse rate also becomes normal. Now, do you think that an open label placebo, when the patient knew that he or she is under a placebo group, can still be effective? As studies shows, it still works, at least to a certain extent, at least better than providing no treatment at all. Here are some studies in this prospect. In one study, 60% of the patients with the irritable bowel syndrome who knew they were being given a placebo reported health improvements. That's compared to 35% in the control group who received nothing, no treatment. If you still wonder that how an open label placebo can work, I want to refer you back to this point of the lecture, where higher animals like us, the human, have two arms facilitating the placebo response, the conscious and the unconscious. In case of open label placebo, your conscious arm knows that it is fake, but your second arm, that is the unconscious one, which is conditioned to get healed after having any drug, doesn't know it. And you even don't know that you don't know it, as it is the unconscious, not under your conscious control. So the betterment in health condition occur even after disarming the conscious arm, as unconscious takes it over, to give at least some benefit. Now you know that whenever you are having any medicine, a part of the improvement that follows is not due to the drug, but because of the conditioned response that your body shows from its previous learning experience of having a drug. Just like Robert Adler's experiment, where rat's body learned to immunosuppress itself post a sweet flavor meal. If placebo effect is so powerful to cure diseases almost of any forms, then why this is not a dominant factor playing and controlling the healthcare system of any country? Are some of these treatments just being ignored because they can't be commodified by pharma companies? The majority of clinical trials are funded by pharma companies, which contributes to the medical system that prioritize the prescription of drugs. This serves commercial interests but don't necessarily lead to the best outcome for the patients. Forget about the placebos curing the disease. Latest medical advancement is due to the genome study, of course, by the biotechnology. They are now the basis of modern medicine. Now check the comments from the Goldman Sachs Group at the American multinational investment bank and financial service company, where they warned the biotech companies and the pharma companies that a one-shot cure can be a challenge for the genome medicine developers looking for sustained cash flow. For he cited even the Gilead Sciences treatment for hepatitis C. They have cured 90% of the patients on hepatitis C in 2015, and at that time their valuation is 12.5 billion US dollars, whereas in 2018 it falls at $4 billion. This drastic drop is due to the hepatitis C treatment they have discovered that cured the patients in one-shot treatment. Now for them and the pharma companies, the patient's health holds less value when weighted against the profit in the financial aspects. And unfortunately, they shape the medical facility and healthcare system of a country, any country. Do you think these companies will ever promote the placebo treatment, incurring their own loss? We need to know the pipeline that needs to be followed by the pharma companies to discover and commercialize a drug. Placebo effect is the biggest threat against a drug discovery and in clinical trial. When a new drug is in the process of getting commercialized and approved by the highest authority of Food and Drug Administration, FDA, they need to pass a test that the active ingredient in that drug must have to outcompete the placebo. A duel between an active ingredient versus nothing. For it, the pupils are randomly divided into two groups. This is very important, the random assignment of the pupils, so that there is no biasness. Then one group will get the claimed to be effective drug and the other will get the placebo. The second most important thing about this trial is it needs to be double blind. That is, neither the doctor nor the patient will know who is getting what. It is to remove any chance of getting psychological biasness that can affect the treatment. Both in these groups, all the people thought they are getting the treatment properly. After a certain time, their improvement is compared. Over here, it is the treatment benefit in the placebo, and it is the treatment benefit observed from the active ingredient contained pill. That means anything above the placebo is the role played by the active ingredient of the drug. And if any drugs doesn't show much of this improvement, then that drug will not be able to market. Now here comes the climax. In almost majority of the cases, the drugs fails to outcompete the placebo. This is a major concern for the profit-hungry pharma companies. A general failure rate is more than 90%, which is bad enough. For new drugs targeting complex and poorly understood condition, the drug failure is closer to certainty than a risk. Between 2002 and to 2012, the failure rate for the new drugs targeting Alzheimer's disease, for example, was 99.6%. Estimates vary on the cost of a failed clinical trial, but figures range anywhere from $800 million to $1.4 billion. So the drug discovery has certain phases. To start up with, in the drug discovery initial phase, compounds are taken, and when their preclinical trials are done on the apes, on the mice models, any in the animal models, only few compounds proved to have some beneficial value. Then they entered the clinical trial, that which we are talking about. There are few phases of that clinical trial. Ultimately, only one drug out of this 10,000 is able to get its place in the market and gets commercialized. So it is a huge prolonged process of almost a decade for a drug to get marketed, and if it fails the placebo test over here, then it causes a huge loss of money for the drug companies. And because the success rate is so low for the company to market a drug, they bound to rise the price of the drug that they finally could able to market, so as to compensate for the loss that they incur in the failed project. Over here again, the placebo and the drug treatment for you. Now, a part of the remission that is observed in both the cases is neither caused by the placebo nor by the active drug. This part of remission in both the groups are due to three factors: the Hawthorne effect, the regression to the mean, and natural history. Most of the little health problems we are having are taken care of by the body's natural defense mechanism. That is the first factor. Some other diseases cannot be cured by the natural body defense. It requires certain care and intervention, and that might be enough. Even without the placebo or the drug, the disease can be cured, either by the Hawthorne effect or by the regression to the mean. Statistically, regression to the mean predicts that the patient selected for abnormality will, on average, tend to improve. What goes up also comes down. Think of the time when you started feeling well simply just after visiting to your doctor's chamber. When most of the people visited to the doctor, when the health problems they are facing hits the peak, right? What happens when something hits the peak? It comes down. That is the regression to mean in simplistic terms. Sometimes patients feel good by their effort of making themselves feel good, so that the people attending them might be in bit comfortable position. This is called Hawthorne effect or the observer effect. It is type of reactivity in which individuals modify an aspect of their behavior in response to their awareness of being observed. Some diseases need the treatment procedure, of course. The whole ritualistic procedure can trigger the immune response and can cure the disease even in absence of the drug. Last two bars, these two, have to take the treatment to reach up to the healthy threshold level. Now, if the bar is even higher, the active metabolite might be required. There comes the role of the active drug we are having. So, over in the last 4 bars, we see most of the cure is caused by without active drug. Suppose if this is the healthy bar and you are somewhere over here, now you take a drug as prescribed and you reach this point. That is over the sickness level. You are now healthy. So this progress in your health condition after taking the drug is majorly contributed by other factors and not the active drug. Active drug part is this much only. The other factors played the major percentage of role. Now, can we change our thoughts, belief and action and modulate our mental setup in such a way so that the placebo effect is itself so high that it can catch hold of the drug efficacy, at least to a larger extent, making the drugs more redundant in most of the cases? The ongoing studies do show we can indeed do that, and future works will enlighten about the fact even further. This is a cartoon I collected from the web which depicts nicely the picture of the situation. It shows a person demonstrating the drug trial results in the boardroom, and in the conclusion it is said that maybe we should invest in the placebos. As you can easily understand, a very high rate of drug rejection in the clinical trial while competing with the placebo makes the situation worse for the pharma companies. They now themselves want to study the placebo effect and how to minimize it in the clinical trial. That is the only way to curtail the future loss and failure during the drug discovery process. This is the year-wise research publication of the studies performed in this domain. When I searched the PubMed, the scientific literature database with the placebo effect term, it turns out a number of publications, and these publications slowly there is an increase in the number of publications as the years progressed, and so as the failed clinical trial that I have searched, it also increases. Basically, in the other way around, due to failure in the clinical trials, more and more people and the scientists and the pharma companies are also interested to study this placebo impact, so that this finally can result into a drop in the failure in the clinical trial. Now, as we got a picture of the drug companies regarding their approach with the placebo effect, what about the doctors? Will they consider placebo treatment as an option? A national survey performed on the doctors prescribing placebo treatment under the British Medical Journal have shown that 60% of American doctors thinks it is ethically permissible to prescribe placebos. In 18% of the cases, they tell the patients that they are providing with the medicine for their disease condition. In 5% of the cases, they told the patients that they are having the placebos, and 68% of the cases they told that the medicines not typically used for your condition but might benefit you. Ultimately, these all are the placebos which are given in different names to the patients. So this meta-analysis was done to study that how often do general practitioners use placebos for their treatment. This study analyzed 674 publications on this domain and worked on 13 countries and looked after almost 3,000 the general practitioners. They take their views to figure out the rate at which the doctors prescribe the placebos. Almost 15 to 89% of the cases, doctors prescribe either placebos or non-specific therapies to treat their patients, and they found it to be working and in the best interest of the patient. Non-specific therapies means something given to you other than the drugs that can specifically target the disease you are with. So let us look into these questions. Do you ever suffer from a viral fever or a common cough and cold and got cured after antibiotic course as your doctors prescribed, like common flu or something like that? If you ever suffer from viral fever and doctors prescribe you antibiotics, that's a non-specific therapy in play. Antibiotics works against bacteria and definitely not against the virus that causes cough and cold and fever. Too many doctors prescribe antibiotics for coughs and stuffy noses just because the patients whine until they get them. A study conducted by University of Utah have reports that almost 68% of the cases the doctors prescribe antibiotics for common cold. But the point is, there is no point. If you are still in belief that you have never taken a placebo, chances are every 1 in 10 medicines that you have taken from terms of the strips or vials or syrups are fake or substandard, as reported by World Health Organizations on the basis of the study conducted by them on the 88 low and middle income countries with 48,000 samples of medicines. Reuters also highlight WHO report which stated tens of thousands of people dying due to this fake drug trade, which is assumed to have valuation of $30 billion. Taking India into consideration, the Associated Chambers of Commerce and Industry in India reports every 1 out of 4 pills you are taking are fake. You are probably not aware of that, as the placebo effect of having a pill of the same color, brand, size, shape, type, packaging is contributing for your improvement. Hence we see an evil trade started cropping up by making the use of this placebo effect. It is not the conventional medicine world utilizing the placebo effect benefit. A whole lot of alternative medicine stemming from homeopathy to acupuncture, Reiki, and many parts of naturopathy, and even the use of magnetic interventions are making the best out of this placebo effect. The rituals followed in each of them is enough for the benefit that the patient feels. So the global market of alternative medicine is climbing up and is predicted to dominate the world in upcoming years. I will now take a case of homeopathy and try to explain it that why I am claiming it that the treatment of homeopathy is just the placebo effect. To check your knowledge in homeopathy, try to answer this question. What is the probability of finding a single effective molecule in homeopathic medicine in your screen? 0, 40 to 50%, 99%. If your answer is 0, then you are right. Homeopaths use the mother tincture, which is the raw extract of the active metabolite, and it has been diluted in ethyl alcohol and with pure water, and then they make the serial dilution from it by taking 1 part of it to mixed with 99 parts of either alcohol or water. So it is 1 by 100. This is the 1C solution, so called the C concentration of the homeopaths, and then the serial dilution is continued, taking 1 part from it and again added 99% of alcohol or water. That means now it will become 1 in. So this is the 2C, that is 10 to the power minus 4. This goes on, and ultimately more the dilution, more effective the medicine is. Let's do some maths. So if they start with 1 mole of the substance, that is Avogadro's number of 6.023 into 10 to the power 23, by the time it reaches from 2C to 12C, that is 10 to the power minus 24 divided by 10 to the power minus 24, then we will practically find less than 1 molecule in that 12C solution. So most of the medicines are sold in the market at 30C or 60C. At 30C, it is something like a patient would have to take almost 10 to the power 34 gallons of water to have at least one molecule of the active ingredient in it. That is almost 10 billion times the volume of Earth. Practically impossible. So these medicines that 200C have no active metabolites in them. The second premise that homeopaths hold is the water has the memory. Yes, you heard it right, the memory of water. According to this premise, anything once dissolved in the water holds its memory and essence. Hence, the first mother tincture can be infinitely diluted and the water molecules will still hold the property and essence of that tincture by means of its memory. If it is true, then the water we are drinking every day is mixed with the sewage water all around before it is purified by your local water pumping stations. Poops from human, animals and all other obnoxious substances that got dissolved or drained into the river after a heavy rain or whatever, all are mixed, and according to this concept, our drinking water holds its essence. How disgusting it is. This cartoon, again collected from the web, truly depicts the homeopathy and the proof that it works. Even after all this, market research survey predicts the global homeopathy market will reach almost 16 billion within few years' time, mainly due to at least 5 to 10 million of patients using homeopathy in US, UK and more so in Asia and other parts of the globe. The whole idea of religion and believing in God and getting relief from pain, stress, sorrow is also a placebo effect, as all of these reports and studies suggest. Scientists from different parts of the world study the brain of the spiritual devotees and done the fMRI scan to understand that the same pleasure and the reward processing areas got activated when we are either engaged ourselves in sexual activities or listening to music or gamble or taking drugs or making love or have some faith in religion. Studies also found that engaging in spiritual practices raises the level of serotonin, which is the happiness neurotransmitter, and endorphins, the natural painkiller that we have discussed before. And they activated the same brain areas as taking drugs or making love. These are the euphoria inducing molecules, the serotonin or the endorphins, etc. Such neurophysiological effects of the religion seems to give the dictum, the old saying, the religion is the opium of the people or the painkiller for the people. It now holds a new meaning, as House MD said. Religion is not the opiate of the masses. It is the placebo of the masses. So whether it is a sugar pill or a fake drug you are taking, or you believe in some sorts of alternative medicine or into the God, into some religion that can overcome your sorrow, or even astrology or into someone's blessing, all are examples of the placebo effects in action. So if anyone believes on all this, like believing in God or religion or in some astrological gems that can really cure someone from a disease, who are we to say that it is fake and holds no value? If remedy from the problem is the only thing to be concerned about, then it doesn't matter in which way we are achieving it. Whether by taking something like conventional medicine, which alters biochemistry within our body, or believing into something all of this, which do exactly the same on body chemistry. We are trying to the advantage of the placebo effect every day in all spheres of our life, sometimes even being unconscious or unaware about that. Let us now see about nocebo effect. The inert medicine, when added with a positive belief, it gives the placebo effect, whereas the same medicine, if has some negative belief incorporated into it, it will give a nocebo effect. A nocebo is a harmless thing that can cause harm because you believe that it is harmful. I know few people who are depressed and manic about their health. Even a little pain somewhere in the body is inflated many folds by their negative expectation of the disease. they thought they might be suffering from some deadly disease. Thoughts like this can really drive your body in the very direction you are imagining it to be. Remember our lacquer life experiment, when a harmless leaf caused allergy to the participants due to the negative expectation implanted into them. Or remember our guy who overdosed himself in the placebo. That is the nocebo effect in action. So next time you are visiting a palmist or reading your horoscopes or sunshine and its predictions and encounter some possibility of having a negative day ahead, be careful. These superstitions can make you deceive yourself from performing and having a good day. So how our brain works, why it couldn't able to distinguish between the real and the fake. Brain couldn't able to distinguish whether you are actually doing or performing an action or just playing a mental imagery of the same. In both the cases, same brain areas are activated, and modern techniques of the brain study reveals that time and again. Think of a situation. Any situation, might be your fear in public speaking, as you are thinking that you have to give talk tomorrow in front of a huge audience. How you feel in such a case? Some bits of tension, anxiety, how your body feels. That's the way your brain feels too. It plays the mental imagery of the same, be it a good thought or a bad. Even if you visualize something through your mind's eye, like last time you watched a football match or have a fight over a guy next door, say, same areas of the brain, the visual cortex which you are using when you are visualizing or replaying the football in your mental imagery are activated, and the same emotion control region of the brain fires while thinking of the argument, which makes your mind agitated. One interesting study on the impact of the brain by just mental imagery of an action has been represented in this study. Volunteers were asked to play a simple sequence of piano notes each day for 5 consecutive days. The brains were scanned each day in the region connected to the finger muscles. Another set of volunteers were asked to make just the mental practice of the brain. This is the actual practice and this is the mental practice of the game in their brain. When the brains are scanned each day, we find that the similar regions of the brain, that the finger flexors and extensor, those who perform the mental practice or those who have done the actual practice, have been activated. It means that what you imagine to be happening is actually happening if your brain is concerned. Of caution. The too much of suggestibility and irrational belief can make you prone to nocebo effect as well. So judging that which thoughts to pay attention to so that you can make the best advantage of your belief system is something that needs time to develop. And another word of caution, all types of disease does not show equal beneficial placebo response. So don't stop taking your medications because probably you are conditioned to that. Placebo effect sets the stage for which the medication can work best. It is something like planting a tree. Like to have a plant to be grown, you have to first to prepare the soil. You have to water it every day, so that the soil quality changes, it becomes hydrated, and add humus or manure to it to provide the nutrition. You have to dig it so as the enters into it, the aeration process, so the biochemical reactions can happen. You have to put it under the sunlight for days. Soil thus prepared is now ready for the seeds. Prepare your mental health like this, and then only the medicines you are taking will have the best chance to work, like the seeds have the best chance to grow, and then the saplings will come out and you will have the tree as the days pass by with the fruit which you can enjoy. So the placebo effect is the scientific proof that our body has the ability to heal ourselves. Our thoughts influences that everything around us and influences our body response. The placebo effect is thus the greatest indicator that the ability of getting healed starts within our mind. So this gives rise a branch of study called psychoneuroimmunology, or PNI in short. It deals with the psychosocial factor like thoughts, beliefs, actions, etc., anticipations, all other expectations factors, all can influence your nervous system. Or to say it other way around, it is your brain that gives rise to all these psychosocial factors. All the systems of our body are connected. Our endocrine system that releases the hormones, or our immune system that protects us from the harmful pathogens and makes us healthy. These systems are also regulated by the nervous system or the brain by means of the chemicals called neurotransmitters and also the signals from the nerve impulse. Now, endocrine system also can influence the nervous system and the brain by means of the hormones. For example, when you get stressed, blood cortisol level rises, that is a stress hormone. This immune system is affected by the same neurotransmitters, and immune system secretes its chemical component called cytokines. All the cells of the immune system gets activated according to the cytokine profile and the nerve impulse signaling that is reaching them. This too is connected by means of their chemicals, hormones and the cytokines. Chemical mediators of each of these individual systems are of many types, as schematically represented by different shades of green for neurotransmitters, shades of red for the hormones, and that of the blue for the cytokines. The proportion of each of the specific types of chemicals varies in our body. So our body physiology and our psychology is predominantly controlled by the chemical cocktail produced by differential mixing of individual shades of each of these chemical types, thus altering the colors of our life accordingly. Psychological change can alter all this chemical proportion and thus can construct the picture of our life. Hence we see the change in the stress factors or in the actions performed by us or by some thoughts or even belief can have profound influence on our nervous system that in turn can influence the other two systems. Taking the coordinated action of all these systems into consideration, they have the influence in health outcome. This is, in short, psychoneuroimmunology for you. In case you are interested to read more about the topic about the placebo effect, these are some of my favorite books that you can have a look into. In the end, wishing you all the best. Stay healthy mentally and make the best use of the pharmaceutical factory in your brain and body. As it says that it all starts from your belief that if you think you can or you think you can't, in both the cases you are right, as told by Henry Ford. That is what any pill or anything can do for you. It depends upon the belief. If you believe that it will affect you, it will. If you don't, it wouldn't. If you like this presentation and interested to know more about the wonders within you, please do subscribe to my channel, The Wonders Within. Thank you for listening till the very end.